Oh, hello there. My name is Brennan Quaintance, and today I'll be showing you how to set up a small software-defined network.
Alright, so in this video I put together a short PowerPoint just to describe what software-defined networking is by me, Brennan Quaintance. So according to opennetworking.org, they define SDN as an emerging architecture that is dynamic, manageable, cost-effective, and adaptable, making it ideal for the high bandwidth, dynamic nature of today's applications. So who is using SDN as of today? We have companies such as Cisco, VMware, HPE, Juniper, Verizon, AT&T, and many more. This is just to name a few. And as you can see, these are the top networking companies. So they are all making the switches, and SDN is the future. So I want you to go out, shout out the rooftops. SDN is the future, and spread the word. So traditional networks and SDN networks. In traditional networks, we have the control plane and the data plane in the switch. So for an example, a Cisco switch, the control plane would be the Cisco IOS, and all the configurations we make in that IOS is considered the control plane. And then it's then sent up to a router and etc. In the SDN networks, we take away the control plane from the switch and it's just left with the data plane. So basically all it knows how to do is forward packets. The control plane is used by a SDN controller. Now this lets you set up rules and configurations for the switch to follow and abide by. Now what makes SDN networking much better than traditional networks? Well, one, in traditional networks, you'd have to go into each and every switch and manually configure it. And then after that, you'd have to go to each and every other switch in your company and do the same, which this can cause many opportunities for error to be made in the configuration. With SDN, you don't have to worry about going to each and every switch since they are all being controlled by the one controller. I could have tens, hundreds of switches all pointing to this controller, which I can all configure them. Now with the use of this network infrastructure in SDN networks, we're able to save time, which equals money. We're also able to use multi-vendors. For example, we have Cisco, Juniper, and other vendors sometimes can be hard to communicate with their protocols that are being used. So this picture is from an article on opennetworking.org that I read, and it basically illustrates the layers of an SDN network. So starting from the bottom, we have our infrastructure layer. These are basically all the SDN switches that you'll be using in your network. This layer communicates with the network layer with the southbound API. Now the infrastructure layer communicates with the control layer with the southbound API, such as OpenFlow. The control layer is basically where your controller is at. Now the control layer communicates with the application layer through the northbound API, which is usually RESTful or Java. So what do you need to set up your first SDN network? An SDN device. I'm using the Zodiac FX, which is sold by Northbound Networks for, I think it's 99 Australian dollars. Next, you need an SDN controller. For my project, I use the HPE Van SDN controller, which has a free trial on their website. Next, you need VMware. I use VMware Workstation 12. You could also use an ESXi operating system for VMware. That would work too. And lastly, you need Ethernet cables. Amazon, baby, because Amazon Prime is amazing and you can get 2-day shipping and as much Ethernet cables as you want. So once you have all the tools that you need, let's become cool like this guy and set up our first SDN network.